Hello. Before we get along too far, let's start by reviewing how we round numbers. We've all rounded numbers before, but I've seen a lot of students who aren't quite sure why they're rounding or sometimes what they're even doing. They think they're doing it right, but often I see mistakes. And a lot of that stems from trying to memorize a set of rules. Instead of trying to tell you to memorize something, I want you to understand what rounding means. And hopefully by the end of this video, you'll have a better idea of how to round numbers correctly and more importantly, why the process works. Whenever we round a number, we're always rounding to a specific place value. For example, suppose we're asked to round 103.473 to the nearest tenth. The tenths place is the first digit after the decimal point, which in this case is a 4. So the 4 is our rounding digit. Very, very important. If we are not told what place value to round to, it is incorrect to round. You can't just assume one, such as the tenths place or the whole number place, out of convenient. If you're not given a place value, you cannot round. Every rounding problem requires a specific place value. That's the biggest mistake I see with this. Students just say round this number and they don't give a place value. So let's go back to our problem. Remember, we identified that 4. Once we have that digit, we look immediately on its right, and that tells us whether we're going to round up or round down. 5 through 9, we round up. 0 through 4, we round down. So 103.473 rounded to the 10th. We're told to the 10th. We put that number off on the side here. Our first step is to identify the 4, which is our rounding digit. That's the place value that we're told to round to. That digit will either remain a 4, as in 103.4, or it will get increased to a 5, as in 103.5. So one of these two values, 103.4 or 103.5, is our answer. To figure out which one it is, we look at what comes after the 4, which is that 7. Since that 7 is larger than halfway to the next, we round up. So our answer is 103.5. Do notice that we were told to round to the 10th. The last digit of our number is in the 10ths place. The big idea that when we're doing this is don't try to memorize directions. Remember, rounding just means if we're more than halfway to the next number, round up. If we're not halfway, round down. If we were to round 14.68 to the nearest tenth, that is either 14.6 below it or 14.7 above it. And we are closer to 14.7 than we are 14.6, so the rounded answer is going to be 14.7. So instead of trying to memorize a process, think about which one we're closer to. Watch out for 9s. What happens when the rounding digit is a 9? For example, let's look at 71.498 rounded to the nearest hundredth. The hundredths digit is a 9, right? And when we go to round down, it stays a 9. If we were to round up, kind of focus on the 4 and the 9 as a 49, and then we increase 49 to 50. So rounding up to the hundredth, 71.498 becomes 71.50. Notice that the last digit of our answer falls in the hundredths place. Round only once. I see students rounding in the middle of a problem and sometimes 2 or 3 times in the same problem. All right. So when we round once and always at the very end. For example, if we wanted to find 2/3 of 59, we can take 2 divided by 3 on our calculator and see that that's 0.66666. The sixes go on forever. And some students, because those sixes go on forever, some students will take and they'll round that to 0.67. Again, they're not supposed to round because they weren't told to round to the 100th. But if you use 0.67 times 59, you get 39.53, which to the 10th is 39.5. The problem with that is it's not correct. If we had left all those sixes in our calculator, and instead of retyping 0.067, you left all those sixes in there and just hit times 59, you see the correct answer is 39.333333, which rounds to 59.3 or 39.3. So you can see 39.3 is very different from 39.5. We round once and round at the very end. Wrapping things up, whenever we round, we identify the place value. We look at the digit immediately to its right, round down if we're closer to the lower bound, round up if we're closer to the upper bound. The last digit of our answer must fall in the requested place value. Once again, we round only once and at the very end. All right. That's all we got for this one. Make sure you go do the homework in Canvas as many times as you want before the deadline. If you have questions, send me a message as soon as possible.